lace up those cleats and put on those mitts. It's time for another exciting edition of our Little Yankees podcast. Stepping up to the mic, it's the OLIP team.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome inside another exciting edition of our Little Yankees podcast. We are 8 episodes strong. Yogi Berra numbers, folks. We're excited to be here for every single one of them. Alongside my two friends, I am Julian Coltree, and I present to you Josh Levin.
What's up, everyone?
And the one and only Eric Ray Sepulveda.
What up? How's it going, everybody?
Hey, boys. We're approaching the holiday season. It's Hanukkah right now. So
yes,
happy
sir.
Hanukkah to those that celebrate. Josh, obviously. Happy Hanukkah to you. Did you ask for anything good? Anything Yankee-related for Hanukkah?
Actually, yes. I am about to receive at some point soon Jason Dominguez rookie cards.
Oh, The Martian.
Yep.
Josh is playing the long game with him, right?
I am. Let's hope he's Mike Trout. Mickey Mantle.
We're not hoping, he's going to be. Whoa.
Oh, wow.
You better be, because now I'm financially invested.
December 15th, almost 8 o'clock Eastern time. You heard it here. Jason Dominguez is I'm not going to proclaim that.
The next Mickey Mantle. That's you already have it. We have it in audio, which means now you're either going to look like a massive fool, which you always tend to. No,
I do.
or you're going to look like a Nostradamus, which you never do. No.
You are correct. That is true.
I tend to be. Is that the only thing Yankee related you are getting, Josh?
Well,
and you have your Garrett Cole cards, obviously.
I have my Garrett Cole card, but I bought that for myself for Hanukkah, I guess. So I guess the answer to your question is no, because then you add the Garrett Cole card on there. So
anything Knicks or Jets related?
Definitely not Jets. I'm saving out for the Trevor Lawrence jersey, and Knicks. I don't know, unless somebody surprises me. But I guess we'll see.
Jersey.
Maybe it's on the wish list, but I got to watch him play a real game first. You know,
yeah, it's true.
Josh, I have another question for you. What's the best Yankee-related Hanukkah gift in your life that you've received?
That's a great question. We're starting off the pod strong. E-Ray driving us a little bit.
You see, I can be the driver.
That was a really good question, and I have good answers too. Last year, it was 2 gifts last year actually, and they're tied. But both of them have unfortunate endings. Last year, I was supposed to go to spring training with my dad. We were going to go to 2 games, and we were going to watch practice I think 1 or 2 days. It was only going to be a quick little trip there. And then I also got from my girlfriend a 9-game season ticket plan, which coincidentally had the Astros game, the first game that they were supposed to come to the stadium, as part of it. But because of COVID, I was not able to use either of those gifts.
They don't do they give it for a future date for those season tickets, or how does that work when they canceled it?
They're supposed to carry over to 2021. I took the credit on them, so basically it's supposed to roll over to next season, but obviously that's still up in the air. Like, tickets aren't on sale. They don't know when the season's going to start, which we probably will talk about at some point tonight.
That would be a great transition point, but E-Ray has a point to make.
But I have no idea. And the spring training stuff, that's just a loss. I don't get anything back for that.
Mm-hmm. That was your first trip to spring training too, right?
No, I went in 2019 for the first time by myself, actually. And then I was going to go again this year with my dad, because he's never went and he's always wanted to go. But yeah, the world had other plans.
Yep, that is true. You had a follow-up point, E-Ray.
No, my point was that I remember Josh got the plan because he invited both of us to a Yankee game.
Yes, that's true. For those of our listeners who don't already know this, as far as certain prospects are going, and there's things going on upstairs while I record this, in case anybody hears that. My dog's birthday is today, so
happy birthday, Rocco!
Yeah, Rocco, my yellow lab, he's fantastic. It's his birthday today, so I have some family members who are celebrating a party, but duty calls, and therefore I'm recording a podcast to dedicate to him on his birthday. Or I guess I could say that as I step away. Anyway, so for our viewers who don't know, Josh, E-Ray, and I are avid goers to Yankee Stadium, and we've been to a several number of games together, and that's what E-Ray was alluding to. And E-Ray has traditions that he's passed on to us at Yankee Stadium that we don't need to go into right now because it is not the season yet, and we'll get into all the good festivities hopefully this year when that happens. But as I said to Josh a little earlier, we don't know when the season's going to start, and that's a great transition point into one of the topics we're going to talk about today on the podcast. We are recording this on Tuesday, so if any news breaks over the next couple of days, you know why we won't be talking about it, but we are recording it today. And one of the news stories that broke today, guys, is that the Major League Baseball Players Association and the owners are kind of discussing the potential of starting the season in May rather than April due to COVID.
Yep. And what the article says is basically that teams and players are probably going to want to be vaccinated before they start playing and going on the road again. And that's totally understandable. You know, in 2020, they kind of just rolled with the punches a little bit and took the risk of going along and playing and traveling to all different cities. But with a full season or almost a full season planned for next year, you can understand why teams and players would be hesitant to just jump right into things. 2 months from today is when the Yankees are supposed to report to Tampa, or pitchers and catchers are supposed to report to Tampa. So this is coming up quickly. So I think it's a good thing if they push it to May and they have a plan in place where, you know, the players can get the vaccine, but that also doesn't take away from the general population's access to it. I think that's a good plan. Also, with the playoffs probably going to become full-time expanded, I'm all for a shorter regular season in general anyway. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, I totally agree. You said it perfectly. Like, I don't want these players to jump the line in front of, like, you know, the people that actually need the vaccine. But if there is a vaccine that, you know, is widely available at that time, I do think it is a great idea. I mean, we saw the issues that Major League Baseball had in the first couple months with the Florida Marlins, who Miami Marlins.
Yeah, Florida. What is this, mid-2000s?
We're back in 2003 on this podcast now. No, but the Miami Marlins, St. Louis Cardinals, I mean, baseball did finish the season, so hats off to them. But yeah, if it is available, and I'm all for fewer regular season games and an expanded postseason. I'm not for, Josh, I think you guys would both agree, 162 regular seasons games and then the same postseason that we had last year, because that would just make no sense to me, in my opinion. It would the regular season would not be important at all if that was the case. So yeah, I'm all for it if that's the case, if there is a vaccine available and it starts in May.
Well, it is funny you mentioned the potential of them jumping people in line. I'm sure you guys have both heard what's been in the news recently is that the National Hockey League actually bought some of the vaccines so that way they could administer it to their players. And I know a lot of fans and people who aren't fans of the NHL are sort of in an outrage a little bit when it comes to what they're talking about, because it almost makes it feel like there are a lot of people who probably do need the vaccine, and now a sports league that does not really need to play that much is kind of jumping in front of them. So that's definitely something that I agree with you, E-Ray. I'd like to see Major League Baseball avoid. They already have enough issues in terms of bad press and bad PR, and, you know, people saying that baseball's failing, and the talk now that they might even lose games on ESPN this year. And so the last thing they really need is to buy a bunch of the vaccine and then have it seem as though they're stepping on people's toes. But as far as the other points, I agree with you guys completely. And you know what? If it starts in May, then, and we do get to go to games, and what I will say is I'll be a lot more inclined to go, and I'll be a lot happier, because how many times have we been to games, Josh, and how many times have we been to games, E-Ray, when it's been in April and you're at opening day, which is great because it's sunny, but then you get tickets to that game against the Detroit Tigers 2 weeks later and you're freezing your pajockles off, and you're just saying to yourself, geez, man, why did I do this? I'm guilty of it every year, where I say I'm not going to any more April baseball games that are not opening day. And yet I always end up with tickets, and I always end up going with you guys, and I'm always freezing my butt off while I'm sitting there in the stand. So if they start May 15th in the middle of the year or in the middle of the month when we're starting to get a little bit of sun, it's a little warm out, it's feeling like summer and late spring, then I will be a happy camper.
Yeah, and it really the real priority and the only thing that really truly matters is the safety of the players and the staff that travels with teams, because that has to take that has to be the forefront of everyone's minds when they do negotiate whatever the season's going to be. I can't believe that we still don't know yet, but the health and safety is the number one priority. So if starting in May is significantly safer for these players who are already risking enough to be traveling the way they did in 2020, then, that is the right thing to do for the sake of the sport. And for the fans too.
And I think they're a part of it is they also want to get these or try to, start the season later is because they want to try to get those fans in there for these owners, right?
Yep.
We've said it as Yankee fans, the Yankees lost the most money apparently due to COVID last year, and a lot of teams are struggling now. So they would want to try to postpone that as much as possible. But also you're going to have it on the other side. The players are still, if there's not 162 games, then you better pay the players too, right? Because that was another big thing with last year about the players not getting paid fully compensated for their salaries and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see. It looks like we're headed towards another murky situation, whether it comes down to how many games it's going to be in this season, when they're going to finally report. But that's kind of the situation at hand now. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. Absolutely, 100%. E-Ray mentioned it, that you got to pay the players. And so far on this podcast, and we'll transition to our next talking point, which is paying DJ LeMahieu has been the biggest offseason idea for the Yankees. It's been what we've harped about now on 7 straight episodes at this point, after we finished lamenting about their loss in the American League Division Series on the first few episodes of the podcast. And now we've reached mid-December officially. It's December 15th. And we still don't know whether or not DJ LeMahieu is going to be a Yankee. But what we do know is what we saw happen earlier in the week, which is a tweet and a report from Ken Rosenthal, and I believe the New York Post had it as well as Brandon Cootie from NJ.com, which is the gap between the Yankees and DJ LeMahieu is larger than $25 million. That's what the sources were saying. LeMahieu is the Yankees' number one priority, and the two sides are allegedly continuing to talk. But the free agent infielder now, based off of the difference in the gap of money, has plans to, at a minimum, shop himself around to other teams. So it seems like this is your classic agent, player, team speak, where everybody's kind of feeling each other out. But as Yankee fans, I think and as sports fans in general, really, our first reaction is always, all right, this is worst case scenario. Now he's going to go out there and find somebody who he falls in love with. But at the same time, I guess news is still news. And for a offseason that continues to be slower than molasses in winter, this is something to at least hang our hats on for an episode to talk about, and for at least the next week or so as we approach the holidays and kind of ramp up hot stove season, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I think so. Next week, we don't know if we'll have an episode because it's Christmas week, but the week after that is, right before New Year's. I got a feeling when we come back in January after New Year, we'll still be talking about this same topic because I don't think this is resolving itself anytime soon. Last year, when the Yankees went out and got Garrett Cole, it was done already on this date. Last year, it was already done. So things are going very slow, and you just can see that around the game in general with the big name free agents still out there. The one thing that we can talk about with this DJ LeMahieu saga is the fact that every time anyone speaks to the media from the Yankee side of things, they always talk about how he's the number one priority. They want him back, and they believe and hope that he will be back. Luke Voigt said it last week. Adam Ottavino said it last week. Aaron Boone said it today. Brian Cashman said it last week. So the fact that all this buzz is out there, I got a feeling that these two sides will eventually come together. They will find something in the middle that satisfies the team and the player, and this will get done. It's just a matter of the waiting game right now. And I'm sure the Yankees have told LeMahieu, please go shop yourself around, find an offer, come back to us, because if if we can, we will match or top it. And the fact that, we still haven't heard anything from this, the only news we've heard is this bit about the $25 million gap. We haven't heard anything about other teams really negotiating. We've heard bits and pieces about the Dodgers or the Blue Jays, maybe the Mets.
Yeah.
It doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot out there right now. So the way I view it is I don't think the Yankees are really worried about DJ finding something elsewhere and taking the money and leaving. I think they know in their heart of hearts that he will be back.
I think this is what the Yankees kind of, like you said, Josh, want him to do. They want him to, no, DJ, like, please go out there, show us what offers you're getting out there, and then come back, because we want you, you want us. Go out there. Okay, you're getting 5 years, $100 million. Okay, show us. Then we'll see. We can work it out. We can maybe, they say $25 million, right? Or a little more than $25 million. It's not really that. It comes down to that extra year, right, guys? It comes down to 4 years or 5 years. That's really what it comes down to in the end. I think the Yankees are willing to wait this long. They're willing to wait. It sucks for us as fans because, of course, DJ LeMahieu is our number one priority, but this is not the only signing we need to make. This is not the only – we have a lot of issues as we've listed in the last 7 podcasts going on. So, yeah, I think the Yankees are willing to wait. DJ LeMahieu, I think, wants to be back. We want him back. I want him back, but – we're going to have to wait and see, and we keep dragging our feet here, but that's just how the process is going.
Yep, the old William C. is rearing his ugly head, as we like to say in the biz.
But
I think this is
William C. It is.
Yeah, I think this is more of a baseball problem than anything. This is literally just the embodiment of what is wrong with Major League Baseball's offseason, is the fact that the only thing you get are these tiny little bite-sized nuggets of information once every 10 days, let's say, especially if you're a fan of a team like the Yankees. But here's the thing. Even the Mets, I feel, who are spending more money right now than anybody, even though they haven't gotten a big free agent. They did sign James McCann this past week, and they've gotten the duo of Trevors that they signed to start the offseason.
But not the Trevor everyone wants.
Yeah, not the Trevor everybody wants, but the duo of Trevors. But it's like, at this point, this is what baseball's kind of backed themselves into. And it all started, 3 years ago, where nobody signed at all. And then they had to have that random replacements camp where all the unsigned free agents had to play. And players like Lance Lynn, who have now turned into good players, had that horrible year because they just had no spring training. Baseball has almost shot themselves in a foot because of the way that the owners and the Players Association seem to think is appropriate as far as dealing with contracts. And it stinks because when you do hear this, we sort of say to ourselves, all right, well, we know where they're at, but we know they're just not going to get there easily because the Players Association doesn't want the players to take anything less than what they're worth. And the owners don't want to give anything more than they have to, which means, as Josh said, we'll probably get into mid-January, right around Martin Luther King Day and the inauguration, and that might be when you finally hear, all right, hey, you get that late night tweet, Ken Rosenthal saying Yankees and DJ LeMahieu are close on a 4-year, $100 million contract, which maybe gets rid of that extra year but gives him the $25 million that he wants. But it stinks just playing the waiting game because at this point, $25 million is where they're at, but it's going to take forever to get there because of what baseball has done.
Yeah, well, it's not just a Yankee problem, like you said. It's across the sport. It's why, there hasn't really been any activity at all. The biggest moves of the offseason have been Lance Lynn getting traded to the White Sox and the Mets signing James McCann. So, and when you put that up head to head with the NBA offseason happening at the same time, which is the king of all off seasons, it really just goes to show you kind of where baseball is in the conversation nationally.
Well, it's funny too, because hockey's the same way. You have that first day of free agency, and it's literally a free for all, and then nobody really signs after that. So it's, not to say like, would you rather blow your load on one day or have it so that every single day you kind of wait for it? It's like everybody would take that first day.
Yeah, but I think
basketball's insane because people are signing like beforehand too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's bombs everywhere. You can't even keep up with Twitter.
Yeah, I think the way the way it happens in basketball, where it's like a lot of stuff happens on that first night, and then you still throughout the rest of the weekend or the next few days, you still get a lot of good information that comes out. A lot of big names move around and get traded or signed. You obviously would rather that than the slow drip of what has become of the MLB offseason, which I don't know if you want to get into it, but I think instituting some kind of deadlines would really help, because listen, you don't want to force teams and players into bad marriages just because you need to get a contract signed by a certain date. I'm not saying they need to do it, if free agency starts 5 days after the World Series or whatever. I'm not saying that everyone needs to be signed by Thanksgiving, but there's, we have to put some kind of cap on it because it's bad for the sport. Yeah. It's bad for the players too, because if you're, like JT Realmuto, for example, who's probably not going to stay in Philly, he doesn't even know where he's going to live, right? Like, LeMahieu, we think he'll probably just, come back to New York most likely and live wherever he's been living maybe. But for a guy who's going to have to maybe move across the country or he doesn't even know, you really force them into like a really tough spot of they have to find a place to live in no time.
And it plays into the idea that baseball just doesn't get what it takes right now to be entertaining. And we love baseball because we're baseball fans. We grew up Yankee fans, and they're our heart and soul as far as our fan base is concerned. But it's like when you look at the NFL with that pre-tampering period and then their free agency, it's like it's not a lot, but the NFL doesn't have to worry about people being invested in their free agency because every single person watches on Sunday. Basketball and hockey, they have it figured out where their free agency and their trade deadline mean a whole bunch. So it's like for baseball, where outside of the actual season and the World Series, the only things people are looking at are the trade deadline and big free agent signing. It's like to just go months on end without having anything happen. It's it's self-sabotage. You're like Plaxico Burress. You're shooting yourself in the leg.
And sometimes the trade deadline's not even exciting. It's hit or miss with baseball.
I mean, it wasn't last year.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for the Yankees. But
there it is.
What was that voice?
There it is. No, but I think we were talking about today, right? Like in one of our group chats where baseball like is kind of falling into number 3 now the last few years when it comes
it is number 3.
Yeah, it's number 3. Not for us, like for me, like I feel like for all of us, I mean, Yankees baseball is like our number 1, you know what I mean? That's why we're doing this podcast right now. But yeah, the baseball, they gotta do something. They gotta fix it. And when it comes to, I mean, again, the Yankees, they're not gonna bet back to DJ LeMahieu. They're not gonna bet against themselves here. The market's slow. They're gonna work slow as well. They're gonna take their time. If no other major free agent is getting signed, why should the Yankees rush to give DJ LeMahieu a blank check? You know what I mean? They're playing the waiting game as well. So that's just how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, truthfully, at the end of the day, as long as the Yankees don't outbid themselves, I think they're going to be in a good position. And, as far as everything else is concerned, they just got to look towards what they're doing and how they're kind of keeping it. But they also have to make sure that whatever they do, they find a way to manage the other needs that they have. And that was something Josh touched on. And that was something that E-Ray touched on. And I kind of is a great transition to our next point, which plays off of the DJ LeMahieu subject. We all know John Boy. We all love John Boy, everything that he does. He posted an interesting question to Yankees Universe after Joel Sherman tweeted pretty much what Ken Rosenthal tweeted with that $25 million, which was, if you were the Yankees and you were interested in signing DJ LeMahieu, but you also sort of knew what you need to do, which option would you do? And the two options were you either give DJ LeMahieu the $100 million.
Might be DJ.
That's true. You're right. Did I just coin a nickname? DJ LeMahieu.
You might
have. If he signs, it's on the podcast. We're hashtagging it. Hashtag DJ LeMahieu. So it's official now, folks. Hashtag is on there. All right. So we're giving DJ LeMahieu the $100 million for his 5 years, or you use the DJ money, so the 100 mil, to get a starter, a reliever, or maybe two relievers, a rental 1-year shortstop, and then you keep the money that you would be using for DJ this year to sign one of the big-time free agents next year. We pointed out in our last prospect or on the last podcast the last time, but what that might look like, according to John Boy, was DJ or let's say Tanaka, Brad Hand, Doolittle, Simmons or DD, and then next year you go after Lindor or Story.
Well, the vote, I'm looking at it now. It was very close. So, that it's kind of a toss up, but I do think that option B, which is using the money elsewhere, is better for the long run because you fill a lot of your needs with that money. And then next year you go and you get one of the elite players in the game, whether that's a Lindor or a Story, like he mentioned.
Elites.
But anyway, I think that's better for the long term. In theory, yes, that weakens 2021, but the team should be good enough as it is that if you make those other additions, they're still in the conversation and in the running to win a title and to at least be a playoff team. But I could see why people would be like, well, no, you have to just give DJ the money. One, because of how good he's been the 2 years he's been here, but also like you don't want to throw away a season, which I think a lot of Yankee fans probably would view option B as, which would be throwing away the 2021 season, which I don't fully agree with that, but I definitely see where people would be coming from. If you need me to give you an answer, I guess I would say B, but it's hard just because we're attached to DJ.
Yeah. I think the last couple of weeks when we were talking this, DJ, and the first, rumors came out that DJ expected 5 years for $100 million. I think I was on par with saying I would give him the contract, right? And I'm still
money, I believe was the quote.
yeah, that's something about that. That's future erase problem in year 4 or 5. But I want to say that this poll has kind of. I'm not going to shy away from that decision. I still agree with A. I still think that he's your stud. He's your MVP. We need DJ, get DJ. But the way John Boy did map it out and this poll and just like thinking about it more, the hamster in the wheel, it is option B, as Josh said, is very enticing. It is interesting because they do have a lot of holes where they can fill those gaps. But what makes you think, guys, that what makes you think that if they don't re-sign DJ, right? And yes,
I know exactly what you're going to ask.
They get a Simmons, they get bullpen guys, and then you have that shortstop class next year. What makes you think that they're going to use this money?
I knew exactly what you're going to ask, and that's the answer to the question. Because if they're not going to sign DJ for $100 million this year, why all of a sudden would they then go out and sign Lindor for a 7-year, $450 million contract next year? Because I don't think just having the fans in the building because of COVID or not having them in the building because of COVID, whatever it is all of a sudden going to change that. And that's where I agree. And full disclosure, I did vote for B on John Boy's poll. And I said that I thought that made the most sense. That Tanaka is not the sexy name because ultimately at the end of the day, we've all kind of agreed that we think Tanaka is good, but is not really going to do that much better for the rotation. But it's like you can fix more things with that money this year than you can. And who knows, maybe moving Glaber back to second will turn him back into the MVP caliber player that might make up for losing a DJ LeMahieu. But there is no guarantee. And in fact, you would say that there's almost a guarantee the opposite would happen, that they wouldn't then just say, all right, let's move Glaber back to, shortstop, or let's try and just see if Simmons or DD have a good year and then sign them to another 1-year deal or do a stopgap. Because let's not forget, 2 years ago when they signed DJ LeMahieu, they signed him as the replacement guy. Their bigger move was getting Troy Tulowitzki to be their shortstop, a move that ultimately blew up in their face, but was prevented because they were able to get DJ to do what he needed to do. And then eventually GD came back from his Tommy John surgery and they were able to fill all those gaps and holes. But they have cheaped out, and that's what you would expect for them next year, despite the obvious logic that John Boy is trying to put forward.
Yeah, I guess if we're, I think in in the poll, what he was saying is, if you knew that the Yankees were going to use the money, then
I would do great. That's what I voted.
Yeah, and it's an easier, that's an easier debate to have. But if you are thinking that way, then there really is no guarantee that they would use it. That they probably do like a few small things just because they have to. But I mean, I guess if you're saying that it's not a guarantee that they'll spend the $100 million elsewhere, then obviously you're taking A. Because at least you have DJ LeMahieu on the team. But if you're going to tell me that they're spending the money, then I want to do the second option.
I'm genuinely curious, of those two, which ones, or of any of the shortstops, which ones would you guys be most inclined to spend the money on, assuming you had the option of all of them?
I'm a Lindor guy, because
me too.
Switch hitter, and
Puerto Rican. Sorry, that was for me, not for you.
I like him too, but he's still very young. I think he's 27. So I'm a Lindor guy. I think he's the best all around player in that group.
Yeah. And we've all made it well known on this podcast that we have no interest in Carlos Correa should he become available, because screw him.
Listen, Carlos Correa, also another Puerto Rican,
so E-Ray might love him.
E-Ray hates him.
You know what's crazy, actually? So this was before the 2017 season, though. Like, I almost bought a Puerto Rican, like, before the Astros were, like, the Yankees.
Back when they had, like, the awesome World Baseball.
Yeah, where they were, like, we didn't know they cheated, and they were just, like, they're like, wow, this team came out of nowhere. They're finally good. Yeah, I almost bought a Correa Puerto Rican shirt. Can you imagine if I bought that?
I wouldn't let you live it down.
I would have literally spit on it, burnt it. I almost said another thing. I'm not going to say it. Oh, man. But thank God I didn't get that. But, yeah, that's Lindor, true. Baby. Bring Lindor home with his best buddy, our little Gio. Let him, It
is. Can we just clarify that E-Ray is Puerto Rican? He's never said that on the podcast. He doesn't like Puerto Rican players. He is Puerto Rican, and that's the reason why. Because I don't want people, like, saying that you hate Puerto Ricans and that's why you're going to crap all over this jersey if you got this Puerto Rico jersey.
I didn't even realize that. Yeah, I'm like defecating or not defecating. That was the other thing I was going to say. Yeah. Anyway, I said it anyway, so here we are. But yeah, I am Puerto Rican 100%. My dad's a famous salsa singer. What else? You said it already.
Say
Those are the E-Ray fun facts.
Ray Sepulveda. We've already mentioned that Ray was obviously on Yankees Yes Ultimate Road Trip, so he's a Yankee celebrity, but he is also a salsa celebrity.
Yep.
What's his famous song, E-Ray?
No Vale La Pena.
There you go. See, you heard it straight from his son's mouth. Won't pretend to know it.
Baby.
Yeah, won't pretend to know it, but maybe one day let's bring Ray on the pod. Who knows?
Wow.
Oh,
Mr. Yankee himself. That would be something.
Yeah, I would love that.
Actually, he would talk about he would have a whole podcast to himself. He could talk about all the games he went to, the players he's met. Oh, we can go on and on. But that's for another time.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. But definitely worth keeping in mind. And the longer we go into this off season with relatively nothing to talk about, the more we will definitely be opening to having special guests on the pod. Maybe we can do a Ray Sepulveda today, and we'll kind of see what that has to bring and what Ray can tell us about Yes Ultimate Road Trip and his salsa career and his thoughts on you burning a Puerto Rican flag jersey.
Whoa, I didn't say a Puerto Rican flag. No, it was just a Puerto Rican jersey. This ain't signed.
No, I said flag jersey. That's what I said.
Oh, okay. But still.
Anyway, no, we are only joking here, and that's why I wanted to clarify that up so nobody thought E-Ray was committing a hate crime, and that they all knew that he was Puerto Rican, and he is very proud of his heritage. As far as the Yankees' potential moves going forward and everything like that, they did sign a couple of players today, and we'd be remiss if we did not talk about them, boys. First things first, our Twitter account, which you can follow at our Lil Yanks Pod, on Twitter, tweeted about this today, which is we have a familiar face coming back, the one, the only, Adam Warren.
Brian Cashman can't help himself, right, guys?
Yep. What I said was in the tweet that I put out was that he just can't quit Adam Warren. And he signed a minor league deal, so it's not as if they expect him to all of a sudden be a major leaguer. But Brian Cashman did go out there and did sign him, and who knows, mop-up duty sometime in 2021. I think you can expect to see it.
Oh, he'll be there. I actually forgot though when we did sign him back today that they did release him in July, and Brian Cashman did come out and say we will re-sign him in the winter. I actually forgot that part, and Cashman was true to his word. He signed Adam. I think Adam Warren was his best man or something at his wedding. This guy, he loves this guy.
He does.
Warren was with the Yankees from I think 2010 or something to 2015. Then he got traded. Then he was 3 years.
He came back in the trade for Glaber, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. I guess this is his fourth.
This is his fourth time.
Man, great guy, Adam Warren.
Yep.
I always
all the
players.
To be honest,
He's on the Luis Cessa level.
He is.
He was better than.
No, I definitely agree with that.
But this guy, he's like a cockroach kind of. Like,
yeah.
He just keeps coming back.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, this is a minor signing that I think they're thinking could possibly, there's no risk, and there's a chance that he could be a useful reliever for them at some point in 2021. So, it's minor news, but it is just funny to talk about, how many times he's been here.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that, like, of all the players that, Brian Cashman has had under his, tenure as Yankee GM, Adam Warren has to be the most, he has to have the most stints with the organization. And it's just funny, like, of all the guys, this is the one.
Absolutely true. Go ahead, E-Ray.
This is what Brian Cashman, real quick, this is what he does though, right? Like, Brian Cashman loves bringing back guys. So it wasn't really surprising to see Adam Warren for his fourth time come back here. Who knows? And we might see some other past Yankees come back, especially David Robinson, who's
that was what I was going to say. I saw a tweet earlier today that somebody had mentioned, hey, who knows? Yankees need bullpen help. Maybe a guy to get on the cheap would be David Robertson. And I know his tenure kind of ended a little bit tumultuously because of the playoff checks and him kind of fighting with, I believe it was Aaron Boone at that time, not Joe Girardi, but he was fighting with management over the playoff checks and, sort of how that was handled. So it would be interesting to see if he did come back, whether or not he would be able to get over the sort of animosity in the room that he had when he did leave. But that's a guy that you could definitely see happening there. Another guy who I could think of maybe right off the bat, obviously he's coming off a Tommy John surgery, but if you want to maybe take a flyer on a bullpen arm, would be Tommy Kahnle, who was on the team last year. So that might be a guy to look at for that sort of cheaper contract to see whether or not you can get something out of, because we all said this when we talked about it early on in the pod. He was kind of the guy they missed the most out of the bullpen. Yeah. And when he went down early on and Cashman didn't make any other moves, it really hurt him.
Yeah, I could see them bringing him back, but I think he's going to miss most of the season, or a lot of it. But maybe it's a similar to what they just did with Matt Bowman, I think. Who was
the other name that we were going to discuss?
A 2-year minor league deal, because they're basically going to have him rehab on their dime, and then in 2022, when he's fully healthy, they'll see what they've got. I could see them doing something similar with Tommy Kahnle. I don't know if it would be a minor league deal or what, just because he's a lot more accomplished at the major league level. Yeah. But, we were talking about it earlier today. It's kind of like the John Lieber. That's, I could definitely see them doing something like that with Kahnle. I could 100% see them bringing Robertson back, assuming that everything's okay, chemistry-wise with that. Mm-hmm. But these are the types of moves that, a team in the Yankees position should be making, where it's no risk and potentially high reward if you strike gold. And, when you're strapped for cash the way it seems that the Yankees are right now, from every indication we've been given, you make a move like that because you think, we have a whatever percent chance that this works out really well for us. And, the investment was minimal.
Yeah. Just before E-Ray makes his point, a little on Matt Bowman, who Josh mentioned. He was a right-hander the Yankees just signed to make an addition to their bullpen for essentially 2022. He underwent Tommy John surgery in September. He signed a 2-year minor league contract with the Yankees, so it is on the minor league payroll, not on the major league payroll. And the 29-year-old will rehab from the surgery all of next year with an expected return. He was drafted by the Mets out of Princeton. He's been in AAA. He's pitched for the Cardinals. Hasn't really lit it up anywhere, but I guess if you're the Yankees, you kind of think, hey, who knows? Maybe when this kid comes back from Tommy John, he'll at the minimum be able to maybe eat some innings. At a maximum, maybe be able to give them a little more than that. But I guess they liked what they saw during his tenure there when he was healthy and he wasn't having lingering elbow pain. And they'll take the flyer on him in 2022 like Josh kind of laid out.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week, right, where, Cashman usually takes these flyers on position players, and it always works out. And so far, pitchers hasn't worked out so far. So I think, like both of you guys said, and we all said for the last 7 weeks, this is the type of deals the Yankees are going to make. I mean, you're probably going to see, I think last week, it was kind of said by multiple media personalities that Tanaka's really not coming back, which makes us sad, especially me. And you're going to see these type of deals that the Yankees are going to make, whether it comes to these veterans or these other minor league type players. I mean, you might see these 1-year deals for a Walker or a Kluber or a Wainwright, or trades for Archer, Peacock, or Rendon. You know what I mean? Like, these are the type of deal that the Yankees are going to make because they're cheap and these players' market value is so low. And hopefully we can get gold with these guys. So take that as it is. I mean, that's just unfortunately what the situation is with the Yankees. You don't want to kind of hear that, especially where, again, this is our window to win. So you kind of wish we can get more formidable, starting pitching and, better pitchers in general. But yeah, I guess this is just a situation and we're just going to have to stay committed to it. But back to Tommy Kahnle real quickly for me. I would love to have him back. I forgot who I was listening to, whether it was the Yankees hot stove on yesterday. But I think someone mentioned that, Kahnle in that clubhouse was such a big part of it too. So when he got hurt, they kind of missed something there in that clubhouse. The energy he brings, I mean, you see it on the mound. He comes out to, I know we all like it, he comes out to, WWE music, Shinsuke Nakamura and Bobby Roode and all that stuff. So it's just exciting and fun. But yeah, I would love Tommy Kahnle to come back and, he won't pitch next year, but hopefully he can get stronger for the year after that in 2022. But I would love to have him back.
Yeah, I mean, I got a feeling that, like you said, E-Ray, these are going to be the types of signings that we see this winter. Besides possibly DJ, it is what it is, and that's the way it's going to be for 2021. But you just got to hope that they do strike gold, and it's okay if you're shelling out minimal risk. You're not trading away big prospects or, valuable pieces, and you're not giving big money to players who shouldn't be getting paid big money. If it's the moves on the periphery, then, you kind of just live with whatever the result is, that's the way I kind of see the way this will probably unfold over the next couple months.
E-Ray, any final points as far as that's concerned?
No, I mean, I think, again, yesterday I keep saying about because they always show the graphic for the potential 2021 rotation. And yesterday they showed it again where it's Garrett Cole. This is to start the season. Domingo Germán.
You're also setting my transition up perfectly, so please continue.
Oh, you see, this is what we do. Jordan Montgomery, Debbie Garcia, and then Jonathan Loaisiga. You see, I see that graphic. You see those fives. You see that graphic, and you're just like, oh, like Brian Cashman.
What was that noise? Oh. See, there we go.
Brian Cashman can't be looking at that and being like, yeah. I know he said, like, we'll be okay with going in with this. No, there's no way. So, yeah, I'd rather sign those guys that we mentioned, Josh and I and Jules, those high flyers, strike gold with them, because we need inning eaters. We need more help. We cannot go into the season with that rotation. You just cannot. Yeah. You cannot, Brian. Listen to me. I keep speaking directly to you, Brian. Look at me. You cannot. Those names I just listed, that cannot be your starting rotation. That's it. That's it.
That's it.
Get away.
Thank you. As far as a name that was actually thrown out there who was maybe a potential innings eater. Jake Odorizzi, who the Yankees are not in on. Tampa Bay, who of course has no money, is apparently one of the teams in on him. So it is interesting that for whatever reason, whether it is the Corey Klubers or the John Lesters or the Jake Odorizzi's or whatever it is, does not seem like the Yankees are in on any of them right now, which is not encouraging because, as I mentioned, and now we'll go a little bit around the horn with some last-minute Yankees news before we end this episode of the pod. Domingo Germán, guy who, of course, did not pitch last year, flirted with a retirement in what seemed like a aggressive Instagram post, decided that he would pitch this offseason in the Dominican League. He now currently has a 7.27 ERA in 16 innings during his 5 starts in the Dominican League. So he has been quite simply pathetically bad in the Dominican League. And as for Gary Sanchez, who of course is trying to get his swing back in the Dominican League, he's been incredibly good during his time. He's 8 for 26 with 3 doubles, 2 homers, 6 walks, and then he has 8 strikeouts. He's batting .306, has a .470 OP on base percentage, and short of a 700 or just short of a 700 slugging percentage. So he's doing pretty good in his Dominican League at bats, which is an encouraging sign for him as opposed to what you saw for Domingo Germán.
I'd like to be able to sit here and say, after you read off the Domingo Germán stats, I'd like to be able to sit here and tell you that, it doesn't really matter because he may not even be on the team. He's probably on his last legs with the organization, and he may not be, a huge part of the 2021 season. That's what I'd like to say, but I don't think we have the luxury of saying that right now. I think the way things stand, this guy is going to be an important part of the 2021 team because either he's going to be in the rotation or he's going to be in the bullpen, and he's going to be relied upon to pitch a lot of innings, I would think. And, I'm willing to maybe just chalk it up to rust because he didn't pitch. He hasn't really pitched since September of 2019. I'm sure he, worked out a ton this past year, but no, he wasn't in any game in any real competition up until now. So maybe it's just rust, and it's only 16 innings. It's a very, very tiny sample size, but obviously we'd feel a lot better if he was pitching well. And if he's going to, if the results are what they are right now, which is a 7 ERA, we'd like to be able to say, well, he's like our 6th or 7th starter. It's fine. But in the moment, he's a part of the 5. So
in that graphic, he was number 2. So
yeah, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all. And on the other side of the coin with Gary, I think I said it last week, I'm less concerned with the results, and I'm more, just focused on the fact that he's down there doing the work. The fact that he's down there and, working on his game and doing as well as he is.
Growing out the chin strap.
Growing out the beard. The fact that he's doing as well as he is obviously, you can never say that's a bad thing. But the fact is we have to see how it translates from the Dominican Winter League to the, American League. So,
yeah.
In the end, I mean, yes, Gary's doing amazingly. And Domingo's not so far in the innings that he's pitched. In the end, though, these stats really don't matter. I mean, it's kind of like you said for Domingo, you could say the same thing. Like he needs to put work in. It's kind of like a spring training before spring training, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What players you have, I think it was like, I forgot what year it is, but Robinson Cano had one of the best spring trainings. I forgot what year, but he had one of the best spring trainings ever. And then I think he went like hitless or like 1 for something in April. Like the numbers really don't matter. Hopefully it's just Gary just getting work in and Domingo getting his work in. But yeah, we always want to see them do well though, because that's the numbers that are brought to our attention, right? Those are the numbers.
And for a guy like Germán who hasn't pitched in so long, yes, but also, no. So it's both sides of the coin, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, as far as some other news, this is more just pop culture if you want to think about it. But Tyler Wade is dating a famous pop star, one Pia Mia. I don't know who she is. I'm not on Instagram. So I heard when I heard it brought up on the radio today that she has around 6 million followers on Instagram. So good for Tyler Wade. He's pulling his weight when it comes to going out there and dating big time celebrities. He's a nice looking dude. I think that's probably half the reason he was able to go out with a nice looking pop star, right?
Yeah, good for him, I guess, right? I don't know what
It's
else to
Yankee
say.
news. It's
Good
hey
for
man,
him.
until
Good
DJ
for him.
LeMahieu signs, there's
This-
not a lot
hey,
more
no,
to talk
this is what
about.
we
This
have.
has to be brought up.
It's,
No, it's
I
true.
I already forgot the name of the girl, but she must have been
Pia Mia.
Pia Mia must have been watching Tyler Wade, on the base path, and she's like, I want that guy. I
Yep.
need that guy sliding into, home plate over here. But yeah, I guess that's it. That's all I have on that
See,
too.
there you go. It's exciting subjects. And the last but not least, Mark Teixeira, of course, has been on ESPN for the last
Oh, here
4
we
years.
go. What do you say
Has
now?
decided he's decided that he is going to be resigning at the end of February from working at ESPN. He was a really good analyst, and he used to do a spot every Thursday, or he still might do a spot every Thursday with Michael Kay and the Michael Kay show. Knows his stuff. I remember back when he was a player, he always used to say that he really wanted to work with the Yes Network, and it doesn't seem as though he's going to be leaving ESPN to go work with Yes. Based off of what he said, it seems as though he wants to move back home. He wants to get his bachelor's degree from Georgia Tech. Of course, he wound up coming back, going into baseball, so he wasn't able to do that. And then he wants to focus on doing some entrepreneurial things and investing and doing that. So Mark Teixeira no longer doing broadcasting, but good luck to him, and we still love him, and he was a key member of the 2009 team.
Yeah, best of luck in his future endeavors. And we'll see what happens. I hope one day he does get to come on Yes Network in the future.
He's a great analyst. I think he's really good.
He
After
was.
he's
Just always, I think, like, he always had a lot to say, right? I mean,
oh yeah.
like the players didn't kind of like at times because he was kind of against the players at times. So, but a lot of
You really must hate Mark Teixeira. We've never talked about this. You hate Mark Teixeira.
I don't hate Mark Teixeira.
You were like, here we go, as soon as I brought it up. So there's some deep-seated resentment here.
The thing with Mark Teixeira, like, I am grateful that we needed to sign him, and I'm grateful for 2009. But
Josh, he hates him.
Was that?
He hates him.
Do you think it was a good contract in there?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Here's the thing.
I think I'm with you, E-Ray.
My thing with the Mark Teixeira contract was, it was a matter of, that was when the Yankees did what we kind of want the Yankees to do now, which is like, go balls to the walls and do the Steve Cohen, just go out there and sign everybody, kind of like what Mets fans would like to see right now with George Springer and Trevor Bauer and JT Realmuto and DJ LeMahieu, and just signing a bunch of guys you don't need and worrying about those contracts later, because that's future E-Ray's problem.
That was. But now it's past E-Ray's problem.
And now you hate him because even though it was future E-Ray's problem, you hated him at the end of the contract. My thing with Mark Teixeira is he was a really good player in 2009 who helped them out with a big home run in the playoffs. Yeah. His defense was impeccable. But Mark Teixeira is a victim of the era he played in, which is the shift. And Mark Teixeira probably would have been a 330 and 100 player for the Yankees if the shift didn't really come into form, because he got burned more than anybody else. But I don't think they've had as good of a defensive first baseman since him. And his defense, even though at the end of the contract it kind of became that, is something that was a very endearing quality about his performance on the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't have won in 2009 without him, and he was one of the front runners for MVP that year. I think he had like 298 with 39 homers. But he was never that player again after that, because the shift started coming more into focus, in the years following 2009. So he went from, close to a 300 hitter to a 250-ish hitter. And it kind of sucked not all of it, but it sucked a lot of what his value was, because he wasn't just a power guy. He hit for average as well. And obviously his defense was outstanding, and he was part of what I would consider, at least in Yankee history, the greatest infield maybe they've ever had.
I mean, in 2009 they had that stretch of consecutive games without an error to start the year.
Yeah, and he was a big reason
impressive.
for that.
Yep.
He was a big reason for that, because Derek Jeter didn't always make the best throws over to first, and same for A-Rod from third. So he was
so good at second.
Oh yeah, he was so good. But Teixeira was a huge reason why they won that World Series. But I also think what happened from 2010 to the end of his career in 2016, all the injuries that happened, and just the decline in his game. I think his contract may be one of the reasons why the Yankees haven't really been giving contracts out like that. Really since that year, besides the Ellsbury one. So maybe the Yankees have learned from they definitely have learned from their past, issues, and future E-Rays problems became today's E-Rays problems.
Well, at the end of the day, though, he was still part of that World Series, right?
Yes, I will say I would take him over Jason Giambi, I think.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. I
would take him over Jason Giambi.
I think Giambi's a very underrated Yankee.
I love Giambi too, though.
They didn't win with him, so the whole time he was here, they never won the World Series. They went to the World Series one time, but he was a really good Yankee, and I don't think that's the due that he would if he was
his mustache
on a championship team. The mustache in 08 was great.
Yep. I agree with you guys. All right, so there's episode 8 in the books, and hopefully we'll have more exciting stuff to talk about. As far as the upcoming schedule for the podcast, we do know we're going to take 1 week off in terms of, unless something big breaks, then we'll obviously do an episode. But with the holidays coming up, and Josh with the end of Hanukkah, and E-Ray and I with the start of Christmas holiday coming up, we're going to take at least 1 week off from an episode, but we're not sure which week yet, so that's why you follow us on our Twitter account, which is our Lil Yanks Pod. I mentioned that before, and we tweet from it rather regularly, and we put all the new episodes on there. And as always, we have a link tree, but you can also find our podcasts on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on TuneIn, and on SoundCloud, or pretty much anywhere where you listen to podcasts, and also on YouTube if you want to see our lovely mugs every single time that you listen to us talk as well. So, guys, any final points before we wrap this up?
Happy holidays to everyone, especially to you guys. I hope there's some news so that we can, have a real discussion next week about something actually happening.
Yep.
We did forget one more signing, and that happened.
E-Ray always comes in hot.
Yeah, it's always at the end.
With the last point, he wants to lead people with breaking news or big signings.
News, but he's back. Nestor
Cortez, that's
Jr.
right.
Yes,
is back, minor league deal. Also pitching in the Dominican League. He has 15 strikeouts in just 4 earned runs in 11.2 innings. So a little better for Nestor Cortez Jr. than Domingo Germán, but he's back. So get ready to see him a lot too next year, because we will see him.
Yeah, absolutely. E-Ray always coming in with great news right at the end. That's why we keep you on, bud. You're right. Absolutely. And that's how you have to do it. Drop in those little nuggets so everybody knows we're on top of things, and then we send them off into the night, right?
Speaking of nuggets, if you have a McDonald's near you, you could get a free Big Mac today. Yes, we are not taking advertisements from McDonald's, but just letting you guys know.
Well, by the time this gets posted tomorrow, they won't be able to get a free Big Mac. So
that's true. You see,
now you ruined it. That was a waste of the end. You shouldn't even throw it in. You got too adventurous, and you screwed it up. All right, folks, I'm Julian. He's E-Ray, and he's Josh. We'll catch you on the flip side.